Hey everyone, it's low carb and keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you, as always, keto without the crazy. Interesting topic today, but before I get to it, just want to tell you about 3 events that I will be appearing at in person because the world is starting to open and the in-person low carb and keto events are starting to come back to life. So there will be links to everything in the notes for this video. Do not ignore the notes. The first one is coming up in July. I think it's July 31st to August 1st. It's an event in a very, very beautiful, very tiny part of Virginia called Monterey. Not Monterey, California, Monterey, Virginia, nestled in the mountains, almost on the border of West Virginia. But Amy Berger isn't the only person who will be there. Famous sleep doctor specialist Kirk Parsley will be there, and Bill Schindler, who's a real ancestral health and fitness and ingenuity kind of specialist, will be there, and the godfather himself of Polyface Farms, Joel Salatin. Hello, what a treat. Okay, so check that out. And next, after that, in the end of August, I will be in San Diego for Low Carb USA. And then in October, all of you in Europe or parts of Europe that might be in or close to the Netherlands, I will be speaking in the Netherlands in October. So check that out. That event is not just Amy Berger. Amy Berger is low gal on the totem pole, managed to squeak in among, guess who? Gary Taubes and Tim Noakes and Eric Westman. And Amy Berger managed to... Okay, so links to all of this below. On to the topic. So you want to study nutrition. This is a question that I get from time to time from people. You know, they write to me, Amy, my life has been changed by keto. I lost 100 pounds. I reversed my diabetes. I conceived a child after having been diagnosed with PCOS, and my acid reflux is gone and my migraines are gone. And I just want to share this with the world. I want to study nutrition so I can help other people. What should I do? What should I study? Do you know of any programs? So every time I get this question from someone, I offer to get on the phone with them free of charge, because it's so much faster and easier for me to have a conversation about it than it is to write this huge detailed email. So I'm doing this video so that next time the question comes up, I can just be like, oh, watch this video, here's the link. Or for any of you out there who might be wondering these same questions, here are my answers. They may not be the answers, they're not the only answers, but they're my answers. And I do want to specify that I can only speak to what I know about nutrition and dietetics type practice in the United States. So the laws outside the US might be completely different. So you have to check the laws where you live in terms of the scope of practice, who is allowed to call themselves a nutritionist or a dietitian, what you're allowed to do legally and all that. Okay, so with that in mind, that is also kind of the first step for the United States. If you are interested in pursuing a career in nutrition, or even something more casual, just being kind of a health coach or just someone who helps other people, whether you're compensated financially and you're doing it in a professional capacity, or you just want to learn more to help anyone for free, the first question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want to do? What is my ultimate goal in pursuing education in nutrition or health or food? Because the answer to that question is going to primarily determine what path you need to take in order to be qualified to do that. So in the US, the laws differ from state to state as to who can call themselves a nutritionist, who can be a dietitian, who can be just, a health coach. So that's the first place to start in the US, at least, is to check the laws of the state you live in. And, the laws regarding, again, the scope of practice, and I'll get into that, right now, I guess. I guess it's the natural next step. Now, if you don't know the answer to that question, like, what do I want to do with this? That's okay. You don't have to be absolutely certain, but it helps to know, or do you want to have a total career change? Like, are you a teacher or a lawyer or a plumber or something? You're doing some totally other career and you want to be a full-time professional nutritionist, or do you just want to get a casual certification type thing and be a health coach who just gives advice to other people, but you feel like you at least have a more, solid background because you have some type of training? So, um, if you want to work in a school, if you want to work in a hospital, a dialysis clinic, that type of thing, most of the time in the US, you do have to be a registered dietitian, an RD, and that is a very specific educational track. You have to do either an undergraduate or graduate program that is specifically a dietetics program. You have to go through a dietetics program, and it's a very specific kind of internship that you have to get, and you have to get supervised hours and all this stuff. And then, there's a very specific process to become a registered dietitian. I myself am not a registered dietitian. I am a CNS, which is Certified Nutrition Specialist. And for my certification, it is a master's level cert, so you have to have a master's degree to even sit for the board exam. You have to pass the board exam, and you have to get 1,000 supervised hours of practice. And I'm trying to think what else. The degree, the exam, the practice hours, and every 5 years we have to get our CEUs, continuing education units. It's like the nutrition field equivalent of a CME, the continuing medical education that doctors have to get. It's just to make sure that every few years you're keeping up with current research in your field, or you're participating in the community, that type of thing. And I'm pretty sure dietitians have to do the same thing to stay current. So that's CNS, and it's just a different type of education. They're both, I think, rigorous and trustworthy credentials, but the training is different. Like there's a lot of things that dietitians learn that I didn't learn, that I don't feel like my practice or my skill set is missing anything in the things I didn't learn. Like, for example, things like parenteral nutrition, tube feeding, things like that's a dietitian kind of thing, not a CNS thing. All right. So and why, maybe I should explain real quick, why did I get the degree? I was a career changer. I was in the Air Force, obviously not doing nutrition, and then I worked as a civilian for the Department of Defense for many years, but I didn't like it. I didn't want to do that. And I had my own improvement through low carb, and I loved it, and I was so fascinated by the science, and I said, oh, nutrition is a career. Like I could do that. I could help other people learn about this awesome thing called low carb and keto. And really, the main reason I went back to school is because I did want a master's degree. I already had a bachelor's. I wanted an advanced degree. And for me personally, it's just the way I'm wired. I wanted letters after my name, and I wanted them to be like fully accredited, legitimate, recognized letters. I didn't want like Joe Blow's weekend keto certification. I'm a certified keto coach by so-and-so blogger. I wanted something a little more solid. And again, that's totally an Amy Berger thing. That's how for my own confidence and my own sense of security as a professional, I wanted some type of legitimate accredited certification or designation or credential. So even that's why I went for the CNS even after getting the master's. Like, oh, let me get some type of professional credential, and I'm glad I did. And I'll get into that maybe in a little bit. So where else can I go before I didn't make notes, so it's all over the map. Let me say something here before I forget, because this is my second time recording this because I forgot something important last time. You don't have to have any letters after your name. You don't have to have any formal training at all to be a respected, beloved, trusted member of the low carb keto community. You don't even need fancy letters after your name to get invited to speak at conferences. And we know this because plenty of our presenters don't have any formal training in this stuff. And that just goes to show that we value personal experience, we value knowledge and information and expertise over letters and papers published and stuff like that. And so I'm saying that because if you don't have any formal training, don't let that stop you from getting started in this industry right now. It's free to start a blog. It's free to get on Twitter. It's free to be on Facebook. It's free to be on Instagram. It's free to be on Reddit. I'm not a huge fan of social media, but I'm all over Twitter. There's something about Twitter that I don't hate. In fact, I kind of like it. And it's going to sound really weird, but my professional reputation was largely built on Twitter. And my practice took off, my reputation, everything started to grow after I started becoming active on Twitter. And it helped that I wrote a book, because I was also kind of like, hey, I wrote this book about Alzheimer's. People were starting to see that and pick up on it. And at the time, there was really nobody in the low carb space talking about Alzheimer's. So I feel like that was luck and serendipity. I kind of got in at I was the only one there. I don't think Mary Newport's book was out. Dale Bredesen's book wasn't out yet. I was the only thing at that time. Anyway, my point is, you don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have any particular certification to start participating in the conversations. As much as social media can be awful sometimes, one of the great things about it is that we common folk, for free, can converse with some of the most, renowned, famous, well-respected people in our field. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to contact Ben Bikman with just a little, hey, Dr. Bikman, what do you think about such and such insulin issue? That is a miracle that we have the ability to do that now. So many researchers who I hold in very high regard are on Twitter, and you can just talk to them, right? There's no gatekeepers anymore. So not only that, going back to what I said about how it's free to start a blog, it's free to be on Twitter, I also became really known as a blogger. And when I wrote my first post, nobody viewed it. My first 50 posts, hardly anyone read, but I just kept writing because I loved to write. I wasn't writing thinking so many people are going to see this and I'm going to monetize the blog and this is going to be money and I'm just going to no. I was writing because I needed to write. At heart, I'm a writer, and I felt like I had something to say. It was important, and I just wanted to write it. And if anyone out there finds it and reads it, great. So of course now, I think people know I have a blog, but you don't have to have any formal credential or training to do that. If you feel like you have a message worth sharing, information worth sharing, even if it's only your personal experience, and I can't believe I just said the word only, even if it's not even, if it's your personal experience of losing 50 pounds or 100 or 200 pounds, of reversing your diabetes, of putting your PCOS into remission, of getting the fat out of your fatty liver, clearing up your skin, getting rid of your reflux, all that stuff. Why wouldn't somebody want to hear about that? There's somebody out there living with all the same stuff you got rid of on low carb or keto. They would love to read a story about how they can do it too. So don't let the lack of any formal training or letters after your name hold you back from putting information out there. So, and again, with Twitter, not only do we have access to talk to the greatest minds out there in the field, but that's how you become known as a great mind. That's how I started to get known. You just jump into the conversation. If you have something intelligent to say, something helpful to say, you say it and you start building a reputation. The more you jump into those discussions, people are going to start recognizing you. Oh, Bill G. Oh, I remember him. Oh, he said that thing. Oh, there's Bill G again. Oh, this Bill G guy really seems to know what he's talking about. I'm going to follow him. Before you know it, you've got 20,000 followers. And people care what you have to say because you make a valuable contribution on a regular basis. So I definitely encourage you to do that, because that's a very easy way to build a reputation and get a following even before you have a practice or a book or anything to sell or any services that you're providing, whether for money or no. That's a way to just start getting a name for yourself. All right, back to the actual education. You definitely have to know the laws of the state where you live or the nation where you live. And because that will determine the kind of education you need to pursue in order to perform the work you want to perform. Depending on what you want to do, you might have to be a registered dietitian. You might have to get a full-on 4-year or 2-year degree. If some other goal that you have, you might be able to do so-and-so's keto certification, and it's like a 6-week thing. So that really depends. And there are, because of course when people write to me, they're specifically interested in education that is keto-centric or low-carb centric. And there is not a whole lot of that out there in terms of degrees. There are more and more, lower level, I would say, keto certifications popping up that are not accredited by anyone, by any like academic governing body. They're just, I'm a keto coach because I took so-and-so's course. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, and if doing that is going to allow you to do the kind of services you want to do, why would you spend $100,000 or more to get a degree if you don't need it? If you have the time and money and you want the degree, that's one thing. And I will say, I'm glad I got the degree for many reasons, but one of which is, in some of these just keto certifications, you might learn all you need to know to help someone else. And that's fine. But in my school, because of some of the classes I had to take in biochemistry, in anatomy and physiology, I feel like for myself anyway, I have a much stronger steeping in the basic science that, I'm constantly reading papers, I'm reading the published literature. I would not be able to understand most of that if I didn't have this foundation in the basic biology and biochemistry and all that. And I think that is probably missing from a lot of the keto certifications out there. And again, it might not matter. You might not need to know any of that science. I like to know it because it helps me understand, why does low carb do what it does? Why do ketones have certain effects? Why is it so good for mental health? So it's anyway, that's enough about that. What else can I say? Oh, these certifications, health codes. The scope of practice, a lot of it has to do with semantics, how you say things, the words that you use. For example, there's something called medical nutrition therapy. And I was saying that I was glad I did the CNS designation. Part of it is because I recently moved to North Carolina. I used to live in Virginia. Virginia has no laws. No, it's the Wild West for nutrition, which is good and bad. It's good because anyone can do it, but it's bad because anyone can do it. So, but it was, there was no governance, no, anybody could be a nutritionist or a nutrition coach or whatever. North Carolina has some of the strictest laws in the country. Until like about 2 years ago or so, 2 or 3 years ago, you had to be a registered dietitian. You could not be a nutritionist. You couldn't have a nutrition practice if you were not an RD. You could be a health coach, but if you were a health coach, you had a very limited scope, meaning within the law, what you were legally permitted to talk to people about and to coach them through. So it was only a few years ago that North Carolina started to recognize the CNS. If I wasn't a CNS, I would be a health coach here. I would not be able to practice nutrition. I would be a health coach, or I would have to go back to school to be a dietitian. Anyway, so that's, the CNS having some type of higher level accredited credential gives you some protection, and the board that grants the CNS credential now has motions in a lot of states to start recognizing us and protecting us too, protecting us from other professionals that want to come in that maybe are not quite to the level of a CNS or an RD. So it just for your own legal protection, it helps to have some type of qualification like that. But so with regard to the semantics and just how you say things matters, there's something called medical nutrition therapy. And that word medical should automatically kind of, oh, what's medical nutrition therapy? We probably have to be very careful there, and we do. A health coach cannot talk to you about your diabetes or your PCOS or your cardiovascular disease or your gout. Those are medical conditions. A health coach can talk to you about foods that don't raise your blood sugar, or foods that are less likely to raise your uric acid level. Like, it's very you got to tap dance around the language. Medical nutrition therapy is something dietitians are licensed to do in most states, I think, and CNSs, depending on the laws of the state. Depending on those laws, CNSs sometimes can do medical nutrition therapy. So meaning help you with a diet specifically for a particular condition, rather than talking about mechanisms. Oh, it helps you maintain a healthy blood sugar, helps you maintain a healthy blood pressure, instead of talking about your diabetes or your hypertension. So it's all about the language. So I don't want to link to any particular certifications. If you're really curious about it, send me an email. You can contact me through my blog, toitnutrition.com, because I don't really want to endorse anyone or another. But to get back to the education, I'm not aware of any university programs that have like the keto nutrition degree. That it just doesn't exist yet. Maybe it will 5 years from now. Right now it doesn't. There are numerous organizations and worldwide that are doing certifications, some of which are intended, they give you continuing medical education units or continuing CEUs for nutritionists, continuing education units for but they're intended for people that are already in the health or nutrition profession. Like, for example, there's an organization in South Africa called the Nutrition Network. They have a nice course, but I think you have to already be a doctor, nurse, or physician assistant or something. They also have one though that's intended for lay people, for health coaches. My organization, the organization that grants the it's the American Nutrition Association. We have a ketogenic certification. You have to already be a CNS, I think, or a doctor or some other medical professional to take it. It's not open to the public. And I may have written a little bit of that curriculum. So I had a hand in creating that program. I wasn't the only one, but I was part of it. Let's see. Yeah, so there's more. There's some in the U.S. There's low carb. Dietdoctor.com has a program that I think is good for those CMEs, for you medical professionals, and they do have, I think their CME course is open to the public. You can do it, and I think it's free. Dietdoctor.com. You can do it, but it doesn't get you any certification or any credential. You would just take it for your own knowledge and your own information and learning. So I say a lot. I have to stop that. But then there's just this awkward silence while I think. Not going to say it. I'm just going to sit here and think silently. What else can I say about the education? Yeah, I guess I just want to emphasize that the kind of education you would have to pursue or the certifications you would need really would be guided by what your aim is. Do you want to be a nutritionist? Do you want to be a dietitian? Do you want to be a health coach? Do you want to charge for your services? Who do you want to work with? Do you want to work with children with, psychological issues? Do you want to work with women with autoimmune conditions? Do you want to work with men with obesity? Like, here's something I can say that's kind of funny. When I came out of nutrition school, and I think this is probably true of everybody, you want to be all things to all people, right? I want to help people lose weight, and I want to help people, I want to help women with infertility, and I want to help the men with gout, and I want to help the people with the skin issue, and the autoimmune, and the allergies. And you very quickly learn that not only can you not be all things to all people, you should not be all things to all people. You can't specialize in everything. What am I known for? I'm known for keto and low carb. I'm not known for allergies and autoimmune stuff, and which, I mean, keto's good for that stuff, but I don't work with kids, there's a lot of things. I'm not a sports nutritionist. Like, every time I get an athlete who writes to me looking for help with keto for performance, I have friends and colleagues that I refer them to. If anyone comes to me with something that's really outside my area of expertise or my comfort area, like, I just, kind of know about that, but I know that these two other people I know have 10 years of experience in exactly that condition, I'm going to send you to them. So don't feel like you have to master everything, because you're not going to, and you shouldn't, even if you wanted to. It's really best to specialize or have a focus, have a niche, and get known for that's the migraine lady. Like, if you know Angela Stanton, she's the migraine lady. There's someone else is the gut person. This person is the PCOS person, or whatever. Like, I do think keto is so broad that you can help numerous people, but you might not consider yourself like a real specialist. But that's, what else? Yeah, I would say, if you're interested in this, start making a name for yourself now. Some of my favorite, most trusted people don't have any formal education in any of this. They're self-taught through their own experience, through their own just reading the papers, reading textbooks, and through their own experience. If you think you don't learn a few things that could help someone else over the course of you having lost 50 pounds or 100 pounds or 200 pounds, or you reversing your PCOS, or you getting rid of your gout and your skin tags and your migraines and all that, you definitely know plenty. So that's probably it. Let me think here for a minute to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if you need recommendations for specific keto, low carb oriented programs, send me an email. But because I don't really want to pick and choose and endorse any one particular program. But I almost said I stopped myself. I knew there was something else. Oh, right. You might not want to limit yourself to a keto program. Now, if you go for some of these just health coach certifications, they probably are going to be keto focused, because that's what it's supposed to make you into a keto coach or a carnivore coach or whatever. I feel fortunate that I got that steeping in the general biochem, the general physiology, because I love keto, but it's not the only thing. It's not the only thing that works. It's not the only way for people to be healthy. And so I think by going for some of those certifications, you're definitely going to miss out on the broader picture, I think. But, depending on what you want to do, you might not need that broader picture. So I'm going to end now. I can't believe I've been talking for 30 minutes about nutrition education, but it's mostly been about me. Start jumping in. Get that Twitter account, get that Reddit account, just start making a name for yourself. And then even while you're in school, that's a great time to be active on low carb and nutrition social media. Because you say, hey, I'm a first year nutrition student and I'm learning this thing and it's so fascinating. Or like, we learned about beta oxidation today and now I understand about these different fats and the this and that. and share your experience, because that's a great way to get started. Share your experience as someone who's just learning about this all. And I hope I'm not forgetting anything critical. I don't want to have to record this a third time. Yeah, that's probably it. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to jump into those conversations. You know, all those researchers and PhDs, they're real people. Most of them are actually very humble. Most of them are more than happy to get into a conversation, especially if you compliment their work. Like, I've been reading your papers. I just can't believe I get to talk to you. Flattery will get you everywhere with most people. That's it. I hope that's helpful. Just keep in mind your goal. If you don't know what your one thing, if you don't know what your goal is, if you don't know what you want to do, that's a great reason to start with one of those quick and relatively inexpensive certifications. A weekend thing, a 6-week, 8-week, I'm keto certified by so and so person or so and so organization, because that's faster and cheaper than doing a 4-year or 2-year degree. Right? So if you're not sure what you want to do, you can start with something small and see how far that gets you. If that training has enabled you to do everything you would want to do, and you don't feel like you are unable to do services that you would like to do, then you're fine and you did it the fastest and least expensive way. But if you do find, oh, that wasn't quite enough, there's still all these things I wish I could do, then you're going to have to go for something after that. So that's, depending on your budget and your time frame, you might consider maybe it would be better to just get the full degree or get some kind of more accredited training in the first place, so that you don't have to do it twice. You just start with the big one. If I could go back in time, I'd go to medical school instead of nutrition school, but it's never too late. I don't think I'm gonna do. I always joke about it. It's never gonna happen. But let's just say that I could do a lot more as a doctor than I could as a nutritionist. So anyway, good luck. I wish you the best. Don't be shy. Don't feel like you don't have something to offer unless you have certifications, because you do have something to offer. And I will see you next time. Bye.